I'm Scott Rouse. I'm a body language expert and analyst. And I train law enforcement in the military in interrogation and body language. And I created bodylanguagemembership.com with Greg Hartley. Mark?
I'm Mark Bowden. I'm an expert in human behavior and body language, helping people all over the world to stand out, win trust, gain credibility every time they communicate, including some of the leaders of the G7. Chase.
Hey, I'm Chase Hughes. I help people and companies radically transform their abilities to read and influence human behavior, and I also wrote the #1 best-selling book on the subject. Greg?
Greg Hartley. I'm a former Army interrogator, interrogation instructor, resistance to interrogation instructor. I've written 10 books on body language and behavior, put together this #1 bodylanguagetactics.com course with Scott Rouse, and I spend most of my time on Wall Street or corporate America.
All right, we want to give you a little short. We get a lot of input from the panelists, and panelists are people who subscribe to our channel. And
yeah, so subscribe. If you haven't already subscribed, do that now.
Yeah, so go ahead and subscribe. So we got a lot of input for Alec Baldwin and the situation he's in right now. Greg, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so this is around the accidental shooting of someone on the movie set of Rust. And this particular video happens to be, he is vacationing, I think it's in Vermont. And cars are following him and his wife, Hilaria, and their children. And so they pull over and they do an impromptu press conference, if you will. That's what we have.
Right. So what we're going to do is we're going to play this one time, and then we're each going to tell you what we see in this. This should be fairly short. Should be. We'll see what happens.
We can be long-winded, so yeah.
Let's go.
I will.
What do you want to know?
All right, Ali, what's the current state of what's going on with the case?
I'm not allowed to make any comments because it's an ongoing investigation. I've been ordered by the Sheriff's Department in Santa Fe. I can't answer any questions about the investigation. I can't. It's an active investigation in terms of a woman died. She was my friend. She was my friend. The day I arrived in Santa Fe to start shooting, I took her to dinner with Joel, the director. We were a very, very, well-oiled crew shooting a film together, and then this horrible event happened. Now, I've been told multiple times, don't make any comments about the ongoing investigation, and I can't. That's it.
And you met with,
what are the questions that you have other than that?
You met with I'm afraid I forget her name in a moment, but you met with her family in the day.
Yes,
her name is Halyna. If you're spending this much time waiting for us, you should know her name. Her name is Halyna.
Halyna Hutchins. I met with her husband Matthew and her son. Yeah, that's right.
And how did that meeting go?
I wouldn't know how to characterize it. They're mortified.
You guys, you know what? No details.
But do me a favor. I'm gonna answer the question.
Well, I appreciate that he was probably very upset.
The guy is overwhelmed with grief. This is something that there are incidental accidents on film sets from time to time, but nothing like this. This is a 1 in a trillion episode. It's a 1 in a trillion event. And so he is in shock. He has a 9-year-old son. We are in constant contact with him because we're very worried about his family and his kid. And as I said, we're eagerly awaiting for the Sheriff's Department to tell us what their investigation has yielded. What else do you have?
Would you ever work on another film set that involves firearms of that nature?
I couldn't answer that question. I really don't have any. I have no sense of that at all. I do know that an ongoing effort to limit the use of firearms on film sets is something I'm extremely interested in. Where are you? But remember something that I think is important, and that is how many bullets have been fired in films and TV shows in the last 75 years? This is America. Millions. How many bullets have gone off in movies? Firearms on film sets is something I'm extremely interested in. Where are you? But remember something that I think is important, and that is how many bullets have been fired in films and TV shows in the last 75 years? This is America. Millions. How many bullets have gone off in movies and on TV sets before? How many billions in the last 75 years? And nearly all of it without incident. So what has to happen now is we have to realize that when it does go wrong, and it's this horrible catastrophic thing, some new measures have to take place. Rubber guns, plastic guns, no real armaments on set. That's not for me to decide. It's urgent. It's urgent that you understand I'm not an expert in this field. So whatever other people decide is the best way to go in terms of protecting people's safety on film sets, I'm all in favor of, and I will cooperate with that in any way that I can.
Do you have any further projects in the works at the moment, or is everything on hold?
No, that's irrelevant to what we're talking about.
Do you think production will start up again on?
No, I doubt it necessarily. Was there anything else?
Why Vermont, Alex?
Because
that's
we just
no, that's a person. That's private. Yeah, that's private. Anything else?
Okay.
So just do me a favor, if you don't mind. My kids are in the car crying.
Because you guys are following
And
them
all I
and
want
they
to do,
know.
as a courtesy to you, I came to talk to you. I'm not allowed to comment on the investigation. I talk to the cops every day. I talk to them every day to find out.
They know what you want.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm cooperating with them, of course. So my point is that I'm just asking. We sat down as a courtesy now to talk to you. Now, please, would you just not follow us for the rest of Just leave us alone.
Just go home.
We gave
Go
you everything
home.
we could
Thank
possibly
you.
give you, okay?
Thank you.
Go home.
Condolences. Thank you.
Now turn it off.
All right, Greg, what do you got?
Yes, I'll try to be brief. This is nothing funny about this situation because, somebody's dead. We don't want to joke and laugh about that along the way. But there are pieces of this that are almost comedy. My favorite is "What are you doing upstaging me?" move by Alec Baldwin more than one time when she steps in.
Excuse me?
We were a very, very, excuse me.
No, I believe the excuse me is, don't upstage me. This is an actor and somebody walking in front of him on the camera.
Very, excuse me.
But there are a couple of things that I think you can see are going on here. My assumption, based on what I see, is that, yes, they've been followed by these reporters, and yes, they're getting frustrated. And I'll bet there's a bunch of going on in the car right now over that very thing. Look what we've gotten into, and they're bickering and going back and forth because you can sense some stress between the two of them as they get out. You can't miss it. You see the body language of them. He comes out, and the first thing he does is he's almost like he's going to go at them. He calls them out.
Let's go.
I will.
Let's go. And, that is if you know Alec Baldwin's past, he's punched a couple of folks and done some stuff like that, allegedly.
Another day, another Alec Baldwin meltdown just one day after using a gay slur when cursing out a photographer.
Yeah, the actor sets his sights on a local TV reporter who apparently once had a run-in with Baldwin's wife.
So my opinion is they got this thing going on. There's some BS going on in their vehicle. Then he stands square on. Men don't typically square off with other men unless there's a threat and unless we're trying to pose a threat. If you don't believe that, tomorrow go stand square on with another male and watch what happens. One of you will turn to obliques. I've walked people down the hallway doing that before. It's funny to watch. It's just a great experiment for you. He's animated, his chin's up. He sounds like a seasoned actor delivering his lines.
I'm not allowed to make any comments because it's an ongoing investigation. I've been ordered by the Sheriff's Department in Santa Fe. I can't answer any questions about the investigation. I can't.
Because what we do is what we do, what made us successful. So he blasts out information very well, but his respiration's up. He leans in on my friend to emphasize that point, which makes me believe him.
She was my friend. She was my friend.
Then she upstages him and he calls her out, excuse me.
Very, excuse me.
Pushes her away. And when he gets to what else, he does the same thing. She starts to step up there. I see her wanting to be included and to tell off the reporters is what I see. And then he makes her leave. He makes her them leave her alone, makes her move out of the way. You see her set jaw, her clamped lips, her head thrown back, the down-drawn sides of her mouth. That's anger. And then I have to finish with this. Is that a Spanish accent at the very end of this? When she says, go home, turn off your camera?
Now turn it off.
Mark, what do you got?
Yeah. So I agree. They literally take their mark at the start. The mark is the little cross on the ground where you stand because you know you're going to be in the right place for the camera. And so, yes, I think some of it is his push away of is it Hilaria something?
Her birth name isn't even Hilaria. It's all American Hillary.
Anyway, I think part of the push away is number one, don't crowd my lines and don't crowd my space. I've got this handled. There's this sense of I'm the act, I'm the star. I've got this one handled. But he edges forward when he scores points, and we get a little bit of mouth grooming. As he feels he's scored a point and he gets more confident, he'll come further towards the camera. I agree. We see anger in her, some real bottom teeth action from her. He does a point score on the journalist not knowing the name of the victim, of the deceased, and we see him do this smile, this side of the head. and a full chin jut.
Halyna,
Yes,
her
I
name
met
is
with her
Halyna. If you're spending this much time waiting for us, you should
don't know her name?
Her name is Halyna.
Incidental accidents. We get a touch of the nose. Now that could be his nose is dripping a bit, might be a bit cold out there, but it's out of baseline for him. So I think he realizes incidental accidents is an odd term to use. 1 in a trillion. Well, that's hyperbole. That's exaggeration. You don't have the stats on this at all. So think about the kind of person who might do a lot of hyperbole, a lot of exaggeration. I don't know how to answer that question, he says. And we see disgust there, because it's a really good bind question from the journalist of, do you think you'd ever, work with guns again? It's like, I'm about to put myself out of most every piece of filming that's ever done in America. And he does hoist the flag at the end. He goes, how many bullets? A good point on there. The journalist can't come in and go, yeah, well, forget about it. This is America. Who cares about that? He can't not raise the flag on that. What I love about this is that we see the female edge round the camera on Baldwin when he says, but remember, I think that's a trigger for her in that he's going to hold forth. He's now took the stage. He's going to say something brilliant. She forgets that what she's meant to be recording is the journalist as evidence of their harassment. And round comes the camera on. Oh, look, Baldwin's going to do a great part of the act right now. And then suddenly she realizes, oh no, I'm not meant to be doing that right now. Yeah, that's what I got on that one. Chase, what do you got?
Is this the one that had the big news scandal with a fake Spanish accent or something like that?
That's her.
Hilaria Baldwin says she's quitting social media after facing major embarrassment over accusations of having faked her Spanish accent and heritage for years and years. Listen to her charming Spanish accent here.
Married life is really nice. It feels different.
But the accent is gone in this video she just posted.
There's been some questions about where I'm born. I'm born in Boston. And then I spent some of my childhood in Boston, some of my childhood in Spain.
But her biography on her agency's website states Baldwin was born in Mallorca, Spain. In this video, during a cooking segment, she can't remember the English word for cucumber.
We have, how do you say it in English? Cucumber? Cucumber.
Okay. Yeah. Don't know what her name is.
It's all American Hillary.
You see some lip compression right when he's talking about meeting with Halyna's husband and son. And that typically means or denotes that someone's withholding opinions or withholding some information, which would be par for the course here. That's probably holding back some information. I think Alec turns to face Hilaria.
It's all American Hillary.
Alec turns to face her with shoulders and feet pointed at her, which I think indicates a little aggression, territory, and intent. And I think there's a possibility that it might not be don't steal the spotlight, but don't embarrass me. Because he has a clear narrative that he's trying to do, and she's clearly doing the opposite of what he's trying to do and be friendly and show some candor. He has a 9-year-old son. He's no longer mentioning her name as the mother. And he says his family, his kid, doesn't mention their names, which could be for privacy or could be to protect some of their privacy. But typically, when we see someone fail to mention the name of people in stories, it tends to be a red flag. But this may be a different case. And I think
he's got 6 of them.
What's that? 6
little kids. 5 or 6 little kids in the car. So yeah.
Oh, well, what I'm talking about is the film producer's husband and child, and I think it was interesting that Alec's wife or partner tries to answer for him, and he just shuts her down. And I think it was interesting that he does not want anything to really come out of her mouth at all.
We were a very, very, excuse me.
And she continues to try to interrupt and answer for him. Like, are you going to be involved with any movie in the future with guns in it? And she says, oh, no, he's not. And he goes, oh, yeah, well, maybe so. And I think it's just an unusual illustration of maybe how that relationship works. But there's another stop gesture. And if you're not familiar with a stop gesture, that's when we're trying to convince somebody not to do something, or we want somebody to stop. Our fingers will extend all the way out, and we'll kind of do this during the conversation. But even if your hand's down at your side or in your pocket, your hand will extend out if you're trying to get someone not to do something. So we see that right at the moment he says, my kids are in the car crying, which I think is absolutely honest. But I think it's unusual that he's eagerly awaiting this report from the sheriff when he's the one with all the information. He has more information than the sheriff does, most likely, about what happened. And I'm wondering, he said we're eagerly awaiting all this stuff, wondering what he's waiting on. And if he says he's not an expert in this, so he doesn't want to comment on it, that would lead me to believe that he must be an expert in everything else that he tends to comment on in the media, or he must think he's an expert in those things. Greg, what do you got? Scott, what do you got?
Okay.
Sorry.
All right. Well, he opens up with, what do you want to know?
I will.
What do you want to know?
And the first question they start asking about, he says, I cannot comment on what happened.
I'm not allowed to make any comments.
I think we're seeing him separate himself as far away as possible from responsibility for this.
This is something that there are incidental accidents on film sets from time to time.
Because, man, this is going to be a huge lawsuit.
The Santa Fe district attorney is now saying that criminal charges may be filed in the Alec Baldwin prop gun shooting that killed cinematographer Halyna Hutchins.
We're seeing everything that shows he's in a panic and he's worried. It's almost like somebody's jumped out of the car and said, all right, man, let's, like he's going to fight him. He's going to fight somebody because he's in panic mode. His respiration is up. He's talking really loud. He's looking back and forth. His eyes are wide and they're all baggy. You can tell he hadn't slept a whole lot. He's tired, I'm sure. And then he's got his wife out there running around with a camera and he's telling her, excuse me.
Excuse me.
When she gets close to him, wow.
Excuse me.
And when he starts talking about he can't talk about an active investigation. I think he doesn't want to talk about how much trouble he's in.
I'm not allowed to make any comments
or any hint of that any of this is his fault at all, which it may not be.
This is a 1 in a trillion episode. It's a 1 in a trillion event.
And I think he's a producer on this as well. So maybe there's some responsibility that lies with that. I don't know how all those things work in that business. He says it's urgent. I'm not an expert in this field when he's talking about guns.
It's urgent. It's urgent that you understand I'm not an expert in this field.
So his goal here, I think, is to get out that he doesn't know anything about this, man. He was just an actor there and somebody told him everything was cool, and then he ended up shooting the gun.
Would you ever work on another film set that involves firearms of that nature?
I couldn't answer that question. I really don't have any. I have no sense of that at all.
This is the behavior you see in somebody. If somebody jumps out of the car and says, man, we're going to do this. You see the person who's probably going to get their hind end whipped, that's what they look like. If Greg and I were to if I say, okay, Greg, let's do this, man, he wouldn't look like that. He would look like, wait a minute, Greg thinks something funny. There, he'd look like that. I said, all right, man, let's do this, dude. It's it. That's what he'd look like, But this guy doesn't look like that because he's afraid. He looks like he's going to be attacked, and he's afraid he's going to be attacked by questions or the questioning, I think, at this point. All right. Anybody want to add anything?
No.
All right. All right. Well, thanks for watching, and please subscribe. And if you subscribe, you become a panelist. And it's not that we don't pay attention to you if you're not, but we pay a little bit more attention to you if you are a panelist. Well, we read your emails and we read your comments. So there you have it. Please subscribe. All right. Thanks so much, and I'll see you guys next time.
See you.
We were a very, very, excuse me.
The Behavior Panel.